Today, as we mentioned, we're going to talk about does your child not want to go to college? This is where, in this presentation, we can empower ourselves with the knowledge about alternative career paths. In the tech field, we can gain some insights into the ease of breaking into the tech industry, discover some success stories, and show the possibility out there for alternative educational routes that may be a little bit different from traditional education. So let's jump into it. So here's the agenda. As we mentioned, we're going to talk about a career in tech, the challenges, the perceptions, opportunities, and alternative path to success. So we're going to walk through this in a few different sections. First is going to be what is a career in tech. So we'll kind of get the understanding of a career in the tech field versus a traditional career. We'll break down those barriers. So we all have some thoughts about what tech is and what it's like to break into tech. So hopefully we can introduce you to some ways that we can break down those myths and barriers. Then we'll talk about getting started in tech, how to, there's so many different streams of information out there. How do we know we're looking at the right ones, and how can we position ourselves to break into this industry? We'll talk about the job market, right? That seems to be a big topic these days. Is there, opportunity within the tech field? And then how can I get started? So let's jump into our first agenda item. What is a career in tech? And when we think of a career in tech, or we think of possibly transitioning into a new career, one of the first things that comes to our mind is how quickly can I make this happen, right? How quickly can I join the party? Well, the good news, especially in tech, is getting into tech, the speed of breaking in compared to a traditional career is much, much faster. Is the path to innovation quicker than you think? And that's what we're going to talk about now. So I love to start this off with this quote from John Dewey. He's a philosopher. And he stated, if we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow. And I think this is a great way to frame up this this part of the agenda, because when we think about tech, it's something that's constantly changing, right? It's constantly evolving. If you think back 10 years ago, just think of all the advancements that we've gone through, within society and integrating tech into our everyday lives. We have to be able to teach this differently, right? We can't teach the same way as we teach traditional education, because this is changing at a faster clip than we can even keep up with. So to kind of talk about the differences between a traditional career path versus a career in tech, let's kind of break this down, right? When we look at a traditional career path, there's some sort of academic requirement, whether it's high school, a partial college, or going through a trade. There's an academic requirement that could take around 4 years. From there, you will go and start that entry-level role after you get into college. You're then climbing that corporate ladder for several years at a time. And then eventually you repeat this for decades and hope to retire comfortably. So that's sort of this traditional path that we've, kind of laid out for ourselves within society, right? When we look at tech, this is completely different. Entry into tech is not really so much about an academic requirement. It's more about just acquiring those skills, right? As we mentioned, tech is changing every day, every year. There's new innovations that are coming out that are changing the way that we use tech in our everyday life. So it's about gaining those skills on how to perform those tasks in a role. Then once you gain those skills, which is 3 to 6 months, you can start that entry-level job. You learn those skills, companies will hire you. And then the great thing is, because tech is changing so quickly, companies are constantly investing in their employees to continue to grow and continue to learn. What you get hired for, let's say it's in UX UI design, new tools, new ways of design are constantly happening, and they'll help you keep growing and keep learning. And that's what the tech career is all about. You're using these tools to make products and make the lives easier of everyone around us. And we need to continue to grow and continue to learn throughout that entire career if we're going to keep up with the trends. And that's what's so cool about a career in tech. And that's how it's a little bit different. So to kind of break down the tech roles, right? When you think of tech, there's so many possibilities out there, right? We think sometimes in the traditional sense of Microsoft or Apple, somebody who's a really just amazing computer genius, right? That's one aspect of it, but there's so many more paths to getting into the tech industry. And here I just wanted to lay out a few different roles for you to look at that shape that digital landscape. So the first is what we can categorize under the data analyst side. This is somebody who really unlocks secrets hidden in data, kind of acting like a detective to figure out the patterns and things like that from collecting all of this data. We have developers. That's probably what you think of in the more traditional sense of the tech field. Developers are the ones who are behind the computers coding and really bringing that online world to your fingertips. They're like the architects. They make apps and websites work. UX designers, on the other hand, are people who make apps and websites easy and cool to use. They're more so creating those enjoyable experiences. So this is a great path or a great role to look into if you're not so interested in the technical side of the tech industry, but more so about the experience and the design side. It's a really awesome field, and we'll talk about this later. The next one is product managers. This is maybe a little bit more business oriented than the others, but this is somebody who kind of steers the ship of the other three roles that we've listed before, and they guide the products. So if they're creating a product, an application or something of the like that, they're working with the data analyst, the developer, and the designer, and making sure they're all on the same page to get that product launched. So we can look at a really cool case study of Amazon to kind of figure out exactly how these four work together. So going back to the data analyst, the one who is in the background sifting through all that customer data, they're the ones that are discovering those trends, what's popular, what's not popular, what do you like the most. And a lot of times if you go on to Amazon and you'll see this, this section for recommended products or products you may like, that's the work of a data analyst that's using this data that they're collecting from your searches and your previous purchase history and things like that, and able to recommend you some products that really align with with what you might like. Developers, again, these are the more technical aspect of the job. They are the ones that are bringing that app to life, making it run smoothly. If you click purchase or if you click add to cart, a developer is the one behind that makes sure that when you click that button, it's going to happen. Designers, on the other hand, sort of lay out the way that those screens look for you, right? Your journey on that application, when you open up Amazon and you want to search for an item, where the search bar is, where your cart is, how you add this to your cart, how you navigate through the app. Designers are making sure that you have an enjoyable experience and it's an easy effort for you to get a task done, right? We're so busy. We need to order something. We don't have the time to be scrolling through all these pages and looking around to figure out how to do it. A designer makes sure that it's easy. If we want this item, we can easily add it to our cart and order it. And then product managers, they're the ones, as we mentioned, guiding that ship, making all of those teams work together to craft the vision of that Amazon app. And when we look at the total experience, analysts, developers, designers, product managers, they all come together to bring that digital journey to life. So that was a little bit about the tech field. And now with hopefully a better understanding of the different roles that you can go into and the many possibilities out there, let's talk about breaking down those barriers and building a future in tech, right? So there's a lot of myths out there. Tech skills transform lives, right? We know that people are having incredible careers breaking into the tech industry. Why are we so hesitant to make that change, right? And there's probably a few myths that come to mind, some hesitation of trying to change careers, or some hesitation of maybe not going that traditional route of college and trying to go through these smaller programs to get the skills into tech. So here we'll look at we'll challenge those preconceptions and explore those ways that have been paving the way for professional growth for others that have gone down this path. So first thing that comes to mind in breaking down those myths are employment outcomes, right? Tech careers have, what you might not know is tech careers have lower entry barriers, they have faster entry barriers, and and similar employment outcomes. Meaning, if you take a college graduate versus somebody who went through a boot camp, these are the statistics that we found. So this is from Indeed, which, if you're not familiar with Indeed, it's one of the biggest job application platforms out there. So they have some incredible data to work with, and they interviewed hiring managers for job postings in the tech industry. And what they found is 72% of those hiring managers said that bootcamp graduates are just as prepared as somebody who went through an entire computer science program at a university. 99% of hiring managers that have hired somebody from a boot camp said they would do it again. And 79% of boot camp graduates are employed after just 180 days. So in 180 days, nearly 80% of those graduates from a boot camp can go and land that job much, much quicker than somebody who goes that route of a college or university. Another myth that we think about is requiring those skills, right? Is it something that we can learn? Is it something that is accessible for me? And here's some other, myths where we're not really certain where to start, or if we can start, and we're concerned about the credentials and the cost barriers. And those are valid. But when we look at the reality, 86% of people with an online credential believed it helped them achieve their career goals. So somebody who went through either a boot camp or an online program to learn those tech skills, 86% of those people believed it helped them achieve their goals, and 75% are seeing these digital credentials as supplementing traditional education. So nearly 3 in every 4 people that are going through these online programs are saying it's going to surpass traditional education at some point because it's so much easier to get into, and it's so much easier to help me break into a field than going through college, trade schools, whatever they might be. And let's take a look at the results, right? So a lot of times we like to compare boot camps and college graduates because we can gather some similar data, right? If somebody went off and took a bunch of different courses or self-directed, it's a little bit harder to track it, but we can easily track these boot camp and college grads. And this is what we found. Boot camps offer faster and cost-effective route to a lucrative tech career. And graduates are also achieving comparable earnings to those with that traditional computer science degree. So if we break down the numbers, you see in this first chart here, the duration of college, right? It's somewhere between 2 and 4 years, depending on how long you want to go, and sometimes even longer. Whereas a boot camp is somewhere between 3 to 6 months. So already just a major difference in terms of time commitment. The cost of college on average is around $35K. I think you will probably be paying a little bit more than that, depending on what school you want to go to. There's some schools that are more than $35K for just 1 year. But if we're looking at averages, we can probably say that there's somewhere around 30 to 40,000 in total. Whereas a boot camp is on average $13,000, and you can find some that are way cheaper than that. So already, again, the cost difference is much more in favor of that boot camp. And then if we look at the return on investment, and we'll go into what the average salaries are, but the return on investment is 32% higher if you go through a boot camp, right? And that's counting the number of the average cost of $35K for college. It's 32% higher. When some of these universities that are charging, much more, that return on investment just continues to increase. So hopefully we can help you understand that the results, the employment outcomes are very similar, whether you decide to go through to gain your skills through a boot camp rather than going through that traditional route of college and computer science degrees. So we'll go into our next item here on learning the foundations and starting a career, right? So we've thrown out some really interesting pieces of information, right? We've talked about the different careers in tech. We've talked about the cost differences with college and boot camps. We talked about the quicker entry into the career field. So how do you do this? You have to start with learning the foundations and build the skills for tech, right? You need to learn information, solve problems, create some experiences, and make some smart decisions for your future. No fancy degrees are required for this. It's just a willingness to learn. And that's the exciting thing. So if we start looking at some of the paths to learn those foundational skills, we have 4 listed here. So the first one that we'll go through is called self-directed. This could be great for a student if they like learning independently and have some good self-discipline, but there are some considerations to look out for on the self-directed path. It requires some very strong organizational skills, and it also lacks guidance, meaning if you're self-directing your learning, you might be picking and choosing some aspects of your curriculum that don't necessarily help you out as much as some other choices, but it's hard to know that without that guidance. But if this is something that you wanted to test out, there's resources like YouTube channels, Coursera, and Udemy that you can learn these skills on your own. The second option is mentorship. This is great if students value personalized guidance and experience from experienced professionals. Some considerations on this one, there is limited availability and prior knowledge may be required in some cases for mentors to provide that guidance. So a lot of times mentors are willing to work with you, but they would want you to have some demonstration of the entry-level skills first because they might not have the time to teach you from scratch. So those are just some things to consider. If you did want to explore some mentors out there, you can always look on LinkedIn, reach out to some, somebody in the field that you're interested in and talk to them and see if they're willing to meet with you. And then ADP List is also another resource out there where you can sign up for mentorship. The third option is online courses. This is great for students who enjoy structured and online learning, especially with that flexibility. Again, some considerations, it's difficult aligning courses with your career goals and the quality can vary. So you might pick a course that sounds great and half of that course might be great, but then the other half of that course might be totally unaligned with what you're trying to do. So that's where these online courses can kind of be a problem. You invest some money and some time into something that you think is going to help you. And then it turns out towards the end of that course, it's not really taking you down the path that you thought. And there's not really much you can do about it because it's a pre-planned curriculum already. So that's just something you really need to do some research on if you're going to choose an online course. If you wanted to, definitely check out what's called Udacity, Coursera, Skillshare, Pluralsight, and there's many more. The final one are boot camps. This is great for a student that is looking for quick, hands-on path to becoming job ready. The great thing about boot camps is they're constantly updating their curriculums and they're going to teach you exactly what you need to learn to get the job. So as we were talking about in the beginning of this presentation, when you start a role in tech, what you're doing today is probably going to change in the next couple of years just because of the advancements in technology. Boot camps are at the cutting edge of those advancements. And when changes do happen, they update their curriculums to make sure students that go through them are able to get hired as quickly as possible. However, there are some considerations that you might want to talk to your students about or your child about if you're watching this for them. It's very intensive. It does require some research and time commitment. So these boot camps can be done. A lot of them are online. A lot of them can be done on your own time. But if you're not putting in some time commitment, or if you're not really dedicated to them, it can be a little bit difficult to get the best value out of them. So this is something to consider. Resources like us here at Av Academy are a great bootcamp for UX UI design. Coding Jojo is one if you wanted to go into development, and there's many, many more out there. I'll walk through Av Academy's program later on, just so you can kind of see what the inner workings of a bootcamp looks like. So that's sort of the 4 options, the 4 most popular options to learning those foundational skills. How do you then transfer those skills into something that's going to get you hired? That's where we talk about applying, turning that knowledge into action and bringing that learning to life. So after you learn the basics, it's basically similar to like moving from reading a recipe to actually cooking, right? You read the recipe, you understand exactly what's supposed to go into that meal and how you're supposed to cook it. But then when you cook it for the first time, you might not have done it the right way. And then by the second or third time, you've kind of perfected it. That's the same thing with tech. It's just another skill set like any other skill set you learn out there. So real world practice and projects really help make that learning practical. So we want to connect those ideas that we learned in foundations to real life, apply what we've learned, and then getting better through projects, doing real things with your knowledge. It's not only going to make you better, but it's going to help you understand things a little bit further. So a couple of different options when it comes to applying, right? Let's say you did learn those foundational skills. There's 4 options that we've laid out for you here to applying your tech skills. The first one is called freelancing. This is where you're basically using your skills to do some paid tasks for others. So you're kind of working for yourself in a sense, more as like a gig job. However, becoming a freelancer could require very strong self-awareness on what you're able to do. If you put yourself into agreement with a client to do some work for them, and you might not know everything there is to know about the field, you can be putting yourself in a difficult position where you're trying to balance the requirements of that client with some additional learning on your own, and it can cause some business relationship issues, especially with contracts that you might enter into. So that's something to really take into consideration. There are things called open source projects, which are pretty cool. These are shared tech projects that anybody can use. They're out there online in communities where it's just an open project that you can go in and see what's going on and then just input your work, which is very, very cool. Great way to apply your skills. The problem with these open source projects is there's really not much support or structure. So it makes it difficult to build that confidence, because you may go in, see an area of the project that you feel comfortable to work on, go in and do your work. And then you might come back the next day and realize all of your work has been overridden or taken out because you might not have done it right. Not often, not always do they kind of provide a reason for it or mentoring on what you did wrong. It just kind of is something that doesn't have that type of structure, right? It's a free open source kind of thing. So it's just something else to look out for if you're looking for that guidance. Hackathons are another cool example. You can sign up for events where you get put onto teams to work on very intense tech projects that solve problems. Sometimes they're a competition, which is really cool. You're working on a team against other people to solve a problem, and you can sometimes win. However, these are very, very fast paced. A lot of hackathons can be done in just a few days. Sometimes they even go 24 hours straight, and you're working at a fast pace with very limited direction. So if you're partnered up with people who are pretty advanced and you don't have that sort of skill set yet because you just finished your foundational learning, it can be it can be a little bit nerve wracking, having to kind of sit back and not really be able to get the advice or support you need because you're working through a very time intensive project. The final option here are what we call bootcamp client projects. So this is where you're working with a team of other students on projects for real companies, applying what you've learned, and you're also receiving that support from mentorship. So a lot of boot camps, Av Academy does this, and I'll show you an example of it. I'm sure other boot camps do things similar. So if you're interested in development or something along those lines, you can find similar types of structured boot camps where you are getting put on teams working. With Av Academy's case, we partner up with small businesses and nonprofits. We put our designers on teams to design their websites and applications, and throughout their time on that project, they're getting support from mentors, experienced professionals in the design field that are able to help them really navigate any challenges that come up with applying your foundational skills for the first time. So it's a great learning environment and a great way to get those real life skills. Some considerations though with this is there is a commitment of your time to both yourself and your team, right? You're working with a team of other designers, so you do need to make sure you're committed to working with them, and you're also working for clients. So you need to make sure you're committed because you need to deliver what you set out to deliver with the client. So just some things to consider there. Now, what we can talk about as far as results go, and this is Avo Academy's example, is how these boot camps can really elevate those employment outcomes. So employers, as we know, they value practical experience, right? Learning something is great, but being able to apply it and show how you've applied it is going to just take it a step further in getting you hired. So you use what's called a portfolio to tell a compelling story of your journey and your capabilities. And a portfolio basically gathers all of the projects that you've worked on into little case studies where hiring managers can check out how you've completed that project, your entire process through it, and kind of check out the skills that you've acquired through that project. So with Avo Academy's Bootcamp, this is how we get our students hired. We have diverse portfolios, so we have them work on various projects to help show their skills and adapt to any of those client needs. We offer team dynamics through our program, which means you have the ability to collaborate on multiple projects with other students to show that you can work well with others. And we have that expert guidance as well. So you're going to get valuable mentorship your entire time through the program while you're working on these projects that are going to help you navigate those challenges and improve your learning while you're doing it. We have statistics here, students that go through our programs and follow our curriculum, 95% are landing jobs working out of our Avo Academy program, and 122 days on average time to land a job. So in way less than a year, if you go through both of our programs, you will find yourself employed, which is pretty amazing statistics there. So before we go any further, we're about to get into the last section here. I just want to share this QR code. We continue to share these events. We have many different events related to the tech field on our YouTube channel and social media. We love doing these, and we would love to hear your thoughts on this. So please, if you have some time, take this survey. I will also share the link in the chat. It's just a minute or two. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the topics that we're showcasing and any other topics that you might be interested in having us do in the future. So by filling it out, we really appreciate it. And to extend our appreciation, we'll offer you a $250 off coupon to our foundations course. So again, any thoughts that you're willing to share would be very valued by us. So appreciate your time in advance. Now, as we look to the final section, is there a job market, right? We've talked about learning those foundational skills. We've talked about how to apply them. Now, how do we go about navigating that job market? And it's really a three-step process, right? Once you get the basics and you get that real world experience, it's now time to put everything together and find your job. First thing is organizing your portfolio, right? It's a collection of your projects to show your skills and everything that you've learned throughout the way. Get some interview practice, so gain some confidence, because these are new skills, right? If you think about it, this is something that, if you think back to the statistic I was showing, students landing jobs in just 122 days, that's a lot of, new information to really process and to reflect on in just 122 days. So you need to practice interviewing with all of these new skills that you learn so you can explain yourself as best as possible. Once you have that interview practice, gain some confidence, you can go and find jobs, and you can look for jobs that match what you can do. And that doesn't just mean in the tech industry. There's tech roles in every industry out there. And what we mean by this is think about all of the products that you might interact with on a daily basis. You don't necessarily think of them as tech, but they are tech, right? If you're talking, some healthcare companies have, applications now. Education companies have applications now. It doesn't matter what industry we're talking about. They're all using websites and apps to connect with their customers. And that's why tech jobs have just completely broadened, and they extend well beyond these traditional software companies, like Microsoft and Apple and things like that. So the great news is you can find something in your passion, right? If you love cars, you can work with them in tech. If you come from a background in healthcare, you can find a tech job in healthcare. And that's great because being able to have a passion in something or prior experience in something is going to give you that advantage because you're working on products that people similar to your background are using. So being able to rely on your experience outside of the tech world as just the user and then bridging that into your new tech skills can make those products a much, much better experience for those who are using them. And now I just wanted to show you really quickly just some Avid Academy success stories and what our program looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you really quick. So this is our website here, avacademy.com, and you're free to go on there and browse this. But as you scroll down on our homepage, this is where we talk about that 3-step process to breaking into tech. And we've seen that our students are making on average about $85,000 in their first year. So we have step 1, which is learning those basics. We have what's called our foundations program. In 8 to 16 weeks, you can learn the foundation. So just think about that. In just 8 to 16 weeks, you can already acquire the skills that you need to go out and practice. And with this foundations program, you're going to start with, you're going to have unlimited mentorship. You're going to start building your first project portfolio, and there's absolutely zero experience that's needed to go ahead and join this program. You do not need to know anything about design. You'll learn it as you go. From there, we offer what's called a career jumpstart program. This is where you get to apply those skills that you learned and really practice them. In career jumpstart, you're going to spend 3 months working on real client projects. You'll work with other designers and you'll really learn how to fine tune your resume and portfolio, right? When you finish foundations, you have one project on your portfolio. As you go through career jumpstart, you get to add more and more projects. So you're making your portfolio much more broader and much more set up to see your skill sets. From there, after you get that experience, we will give you help you with up to 12 months of job search support. We're going to give you unlimited interview prep so you can practice with our mentors anytime you need. We'll connect you with hiring partners, and we're also backed by a job guarantee. So if you go through this program, we have that guarantee set. So if you follow what we're telling you to do, we can help you get land that entry-level job. So that's our 3-step program. Really quickly, just to kind of show you what this portfolio, we've mentioned that word a lot, what that looks like. Here's an example of one of our students. This is his portfolio page. His name was Patrick. And as you scroll down, you can see all these different thumbnails here. These are different projects that he worked on. And you can see whether he worked as a designer on a team. So this is probably something he did in our Career Jumpstart program, or a sole UX UI designer, which is what we do in our foundations as well. So just to give you an idea of what that looks like, this is something that he did as a solo project, probably through our foundations program. And this is how the design process works and how we teach you UX UI design. So first things first, you have to identify a problem, right? Something that is causing people some challenges, frustrations, or something that's not meeting the needs of some people out there. Once you identify that, we walk you through this entire process here and help you create something like this. So you can see this is a finished application that Patrick created through our program. So how did he get there? As you continue to scroll down, this is why portfolios are such a great tool for anybody looking to get hired. It documents everything that you do through the design process. So it starts with research. It goes to different surveys and interviews, collecting some insights, mapping out the insights that you found, using these to generate some ideas. And this is what's called a sitemap. This is how you sort of map out the pages of the application you want to design. And as we continue to scroll, you can see how the design starts to take shape, right? We start very, very, basic. These are just hand sketches on the outline of an iPhone. And then from there, you start to just completely add things to it. So you can see this is what's called lo-fi and wireframes. It's sort of like a blueprint of how, or the layout of how your app's going to look. some more screens here, and then we end with figuring out a color system and coming up with something like this, a full blown prototype that can actually be tested by people. So you can see here's a video of Patrick showing his testing, talking about the objectives of his testing and the results. And from there, we end with reflecting and talking about some things that we might have changed after what we tested. So a very, very cool process to create your very first application. And then just to give you an idea of what it looks like to work after foundations in the Career Jumpstart program when you're working on a team. Here's the project that they worked on. This was for a company called Vibin that wanted to focus on a platform where people can host events in their area, promote community events and things like that. So you see this project was about 6 weeks long. He was on a team of 5, and you can see the difference when it comes to, a kickoff call. All the team members are on the call here, and they're meeting, talking things through with the client, figuring out what the client's looking for, and then going through that exact same design process that I showed you, step by step to eventually creating a platform that looks like this, right? Very, very cool, a working prototype. And this is for a web platform instead of an application, but you can still see all of the work that they put into this. So it's very, very cool. And that's what you'll get with our programs. You have the opportunity to start first by learning yourself and working on a project by yourself, and then working with others and working for real clients to practice those skills. Hopefully this addressed any of your questions. If you have any other questions, we would love for you to schedule a call with our career advisors. They are amazing. They'll answer anything you might have. They'll walk you through our programs, talk about any questions that might come to mind. And they're just really, really awesome to kind of chat with and understand some things a little bit more. Here is a link to that. Here's a link to the page where you can schedule a call with them. You can also scan this QR code here. And then if you wanted to explore us a little bit further, please check out our social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok. You can find us on LinkedIn, and you can also email us at info@avocademy.com. So really appreciate your time joining us and watching this presentation. And if there's anything that we can help you with, please schedule a career advisor call. We are more than happy to hear from you and chat through anything that you might have in mind. Otherwise, we appreciate your time and look forward to hopefully connecting with you all soon. Thank you.